Welcome everybody to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining. It's a shame that it's online, but I'm sure we'll be able to have a really good discussion. The purpose of today is to talk you through the nuts and bolts of Chartership, and I'm joined by Scott Dale, Head of Business Development and Engagement, and Kathryn Thomson, who's the Head of Education and Professional Development. I'm Tom Shelston, I'm CEO of the IBD, and I think we have over 100 people on the call, and really pleased we've got people from the UK, we've got people from the Africa section, we've got people from the international sections and what have you. And if you've got any questions at all, then please just pop them into the chat and we'll go through them. If we don't cover everything, or if there's a question that we would just want to cross-reference, then we'll come back to you, because we'll know who sent the question through and we will endeavour to reply to all of the questions and what have you. So the format will be myself and Scott and Kathryn will talk through some slides that kind of set out why we're doing this and how it's going to affect things. And then we'll kind of pass over for questions. But as I say, thank you very much for coming along. It's slightly weird here that we can't see the audience, so just bear with us, and I promise we'll do our best. But as I say, you're all very welcome and thank you very much. So I'll give some context into how Chartership fits within the IBD. And so the kind of core, everything that we do at the IBD is about the delivery of sustainable professional education that engages, connects, and transforms for high performance outcomes. So everything that we do, including Chartership, is about that. And what I'd like to show you now is how we break that up and who is responsible for that. So essentially, there's three elements to the IBD, and Chartership touches all of those. So you've got professional qualifications, which are our examinations. You've got the learning and development that prepares people for those examinations and also provides our current kind of CPD offer. And then alongside that, you've got membership engagement, which is that kind of fellowship of people who have joined the IBD potentially to take an exam in the first instance, but then stay with us and hopefully flourish in their careers with the support of the sections. As I was saying, the IBD is essentially split up into three sections. There's professional qualifications, there's membership engagement, and there's learning and development. And the people who look after these particular areas are Kathryn, who is the Head of Education and Professional Development. So she's in charge of developing our kind of learning and development, whether it's the kind of strategic work or it's the delivery of the courses. Then we have Deb Kennedy, who is the chair of the Board of Examiners. So the Board of Examiners are responsible for setting the examinations, working with the Board of Examinations and making sure that they're administered really smoothly and efficiently. Then we have Scott. Scott is in charge of our membership offer, but also our kind of broader business development and engagement. So Scott's responsible for making sure that all of our partnerships and making sure that our membership offer is kind of relevant and reflects the needs of people within the IBD. And alongside that, the benefit, the IBD member benefit that is the most kind of well liked is still the BDI magazine, and Steve Curtis is the head of publications who looks after that. Then we're all supported by a bunch of people on the side. So we've got myself as the CEO, then a few of you may know Biram Desai, who is our head of finance, who controls all of the kind of money and make sure that the IBD is on a secure, financially sustainable footing. And then also on the management team, we have Dan Griffiths. So Dan Griffiths is our head of ITC and our digital strategy. And digital is so important for the IBD in terms of whether it's the delivery of our examinations or it's the delivery of our self-directed learning, or it's how we manage our website and our communication. And Dan is the person that holds all of that together. So in terms of what are the principles that we try and operate within to deliver those three areas? And as I said at the start, Chartership encompasses all of these things. So the key thing that we try and adopt is a one IBD approach. The IBD is at its best when it's operating as a thriving, engaged and connected community. And so we work hard within HQ so that everybody to operate in a very collegiate way, but we also recognise that the thing that sets us apart is other sections and the contributions that we get from the tutors and the examiners. And that means that the IBD can certainly punch above its weight. So we put a lot of effort into making sure all of that stuff is aligned and synchronized. The second principle is that we endeavour to listen to and act on the needs of our members, students and corporate customers. And some of you may have seen that at the moment we've got our annual survey out. We tend to put one survey out a year so people don't get survey fatigue, but that gives you a chance to say how we are doing in each of these areas, make any suggestions, and then we on the leadership team and also the board of trustees, we really review those results and we look at actually these are the things that should be set in our priorities for the years ahead. So if you haven't already completed the survey, we've had lots of people who have. Please, can you look out for it over the next couple of days? Because this is the chance for you guys to have your voice. Because the IBD to be successful needs to be super relevant. And the way it's relevant is that we listen and then we act on the needs of our members, students and corporate customers. Big thing for us as well is that student success should be driven by the quality of our education and professional development offer and the application of the candidate. So whenever we do courses or we do examinations, we need to really listen to what people are saying about it. Now, some of it, or ultimately, it will be down to the kind of application of the candidate, but we want to make sure that there are no kind of reasons why we haven't done things that give the candidate every chance of success. And then finally, the IBD has to operate in a sustainable way. We are a charity, and we need to do things so that we're using our resources in the best way that meet the needs of our members. So I'm now going to move on to what chartered status is. And chartered status, essentially, they originated from royal charters that are issued to professional bodies in the UK by the British monarch. And ours was the second charter that was granted by King Charles last year. Now, charter titles may only be awarded by institutions that have been incorporated under one of these royal charters, and that is with permission from the Privy Council. And the Privy Council provide oversight of all the chartered bodies. Now, the standards, though, are set between professional bodies and relevant specialist government departments, and these cannot be changed without government permission. So one of the changes that we've got by becoming a chartered organisation is that we are held to account externally by different government departments and ultimately by the kind of Privy Council. And that is a really good discipline for ourselves. Now, a chartered professional is a person who's gained a specific level of skill or competence in a particular field of work. And our role here is to facilitate the pathway to that chartered status. So whether you just want to be a member of the CIBD and be able to use the post-nominals, or in time we'll create a pathway so that people can develop themselves towards that individual chartered status. Over 1,300 organisations have been granted this UK Royal Charter. So why is chartership a good thing? Well, I think if you follow the model of other chartered organisations, whether they're engineering, accountancy or medicine, you see that by having this discipline of chartership, it means that people can really continue to thrive in their areas, in their careers. And people who are members of the CIBD, they'll need to sign up to the kind of prerequisites of it, and they will be set apart. And the key difference between IBD and the CIBD is the formalization of this ongoing commitment to lifelong learning. And people will be, if somebody's a CIBD member, they will have confidence that that person is keeping their skills and professional development up to date. And that in turn allows us to kind of build public trust and confidence in the industry and build recognition that for its importance to both society and the economy. A lot of the work that we've been doing with the Charity Commission is about the public benefit of the CIBD. And by operating as a chartered body, we'll be able to build that public trust and confidence. And what that in turn will do is that raises the profile of the kind of an awareness of brewing, distilling and the allied industries as a kind of primary career choice. A lot of you who've been with the IBD for a while always play back to me and other people on the team the importance of helping people in the early stages of their careers and kind of supporting them as they make their first steps. And from an IBD perspective, what this means is that we will need to kind of walk the walk as well as talk the talk, and that will involve us creating this kind of clear, continuous professional development pathway for drinks industry professionals. So what I like to think about, what I get really excited about with Chartership is that this is really about setting up the CIBD as a lifelong learning partner in whatever form people want. And this provides the kind of real mandate and foundation for us to do that. Now, what will need to happen over the coming months? Well, the thing that we are unashamedly focused on at the moment is this formal transition from the IBD to the CIBD. Now, the CIBD is a separate legal entity to the IBD. And so I'll talk in a bit about the kind of process whereby we pass the baton from the IBD onto the CIBD and what that involves. As I'm sure a lot of you will know, because we've been engaging with you on this matter over the past couple of years, there are new membership eligibility criteria. And Scott will talk about that in some detail in terms of existing members. In the first instance, we are very comfortable that all of our existing members will meet the requirements and they will be automatically transferred across. But then as we evolve over the next couple of years, people will have the opportunity to self-select as to which category they feel they best fit in. But when Scott talks about the categories, you'll see how broad those categories are. Members and fellows will be able to use the kind of post-nominals, which will be really good in terms of how they kind of present themselves within the industry. And the big differences will be that absolute commitment for our members to follow the code of professional conduct, but also to keep their knowledge up to date through CPD. And what that means from ourselves, and this is why we're really fortunate that Kathryn has joined us at the start of the year, is that she is overseeing the development of our new CPD strategy and pathway. And she will talk to you about what CPD is, how it's nothing to really be scared about, and it's stuff that you will already be doing as a kind of natural part of your kind of working life. And so in essence, I think the key thing is, although we are absolutely focused on the process of formally transitioning from the IBD to the CIBD, it's always really important that we step back and we think about the big picture and how Chartership is just such a great opportunity for the IBD to raise the bar across all areas, whether it's learning and development, it's supporting people in their professional qualifications, and ultimately it's about kind of creating and nurturing this kind of thriving fellowship of like-minded professionals who are all keen in terms of kind of building their knowledge and playing that knowledge forward. Before I pass on to Scott, there are a couple of things from a governance perspective, and I've hinted about these already. So previously, how we've managed ourselves have been largely between ourselves and the Charity Commission and Companies House. But here there'll be that additional layer of oversight where we will be governed by the Charter, bylaws and regulations. And that means that we will not be able to make any changes to those charter and those bylaws without the approval of the Privy Council. Now, that may feel like another layer that we don't need, but actually it just holds us to a particular standard. And we are in a really good cohort of other like-minded professions and organisations who have just demonstrated the kind of benefits of chartership to their respective industries. Now, I'm now going to pass across to Scott, who's going to talk through the kind of detail, the nuts and bolts of the membership changes.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tom. So it's a really exciting time for the CIBD, IBD to CIBD. And my role really here is just to try and explain some of the changes to our categories and also around the eligibility for some of those key areas. So there will be changes under our new charter and bylaw. What does that mean? Well, there will be eligibility criteria for both members and fellows. However, as Tom has mentioned, we're incredibly confident that most members will be able to transfer over very quickly, and we'll manage that process for you. There's also the added benefit of our members and fellows being able to use post-nominals after into CIBD, MCIBD and FCIBD. And we have a brand new category, which is our associate member category, which is non-voting, and that will be eligible for all people that aren't available for member or fellow or student. And the benefit of that is that it's becoming accessible for all. So if you have an interest in that, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. With the new charter and bylaws, there's some responsibilities. Tom's mentioned around the professional code of conduct, but there's also an element of committing to your professional development, continuous professional development. We'll be taking a trust-based approach on that initially, and Kathryn will touch on some of those areas, but most of which you're probably doing already. Thanks, Tom. So let's get into the criteria for each of the categories, because that's probably the key bit. So let's start with the member and fellow category. Essentially what we're looking for there are individuals that have relevant university degrees that are working within brewing and distilling. Or if you hold a IBD diploma qualification and 1 year's experience within the industry. Alternatively, if you hold our certificate in company direction, certificate in CIBD qualification, and you have 3 years experience within the industry. And if none of those apply, then you've got the opportunity to there if you have 5 years of relevant experience within the industry. So you can see that actually the eligibility is incredibly broad, and it's hopefully accessible for all. Thanks, Tom. So here's our new category, our associate member. So this is available for anybody with an interest in brewing and distilling. There are some slight changes. The key bit is that the benefits are exactly the same. So you will have exactly the same access to the BDIs and the events and gain all those wonderful benefits there. The only changes being that as an associate member, you won't be able to vote at general meetings. You won't have the right to stand for election as a trustee, and you won't have the opportunity to use the post-nominals. However, that said, you don't have to necessarily abide by the Code of Professional Conduct, and there isn't a requirement for you to undertake continuous professional development. So it really is opening the membership up for all of those people that have an interest within the industry. Thanks, Tom. Our student member. So we've condensed this and hopefully made it a little bit easier to understand. So essentially, what is it to be a student member? Well, if you're actively engaged in studying in a relevant university degree, and we'll provide details of what those are, or a CIBD qualification, as a student member, exactly the same as the associate, you'll have the wonderful opportunity to make use of all of the benefits that all of the members use, but equally the same as an associate member, you won't have that option to stand for election as a trustee, you won't have the option to vote at the general meetings, and you can't use the post-nominals, but equally as the same as associate, there isn't a requirement for you to abide by the Code of Professional Conduct and the CPD element. So it's a really fantastic offer for those that are in study and opens it up all the benefits for those that are moving through. So in summary then, you'll see the table there which outlines all the key benefits and features for each of the categories of the membership, and hopefully I've explained what those are. In terms of timeline, we've mentioned again that in this year we will automatically be transferring our members into their new categories. So there isn't anything that you'll do, and we'll send out further communications for that. In 2025, when we will become the CIBD, there'll be an updated renewal process. So once your renewal comes through, there'll be an extra box on there which allows you to tick to acknowledge that you're committing yourself to the Code of Professional Conduct, and also the CPD. And then also in 2025, we'll create a brand new member process, and this opens it up to that new category, which is associate. And again, that will allow individuals to tick that box moving through. So hopefully that explains some of the key benefits and the categories of the membership. Kathryn, I think it's over to you now for CPD.
Thanks, both. So continuing professional development is, I think, understood by most people, but just to reiterate, it's normally seen as a combination of skills, knowledge and behaviours or attributes. And we're fairly sure that everyone's doing it already in some shape or form. It's keeping your knowledge up to date in new technology and new products and new industries, new laws, new practices. And it's a new requirement of being a member of the CIBD, but we want to make this as easy as possible and not a bureaucratic process. As a sort of a handy acronym on the right there, you'll see T-waves. These are the sort of categories of CPD that include everything from training, experience that you have at work, academic studies such as qualifications, any volunteering with sections or other committees, any events that you attend or conferences, webinars, and any sort of self-study that you do, for example, reading the BDI or reading the journal, or listening to podcasts, etc. Thank you, Tom. So how are we going to put this into action? As we said earlier, it's very much a trust-based approach, and we're fairly sure that most people are doing it already. But to fulfill our vision of, being the leading provider of CPD, we want to help you record and reflect on your CPD in whatever way works best for you. And this is all very much about individual choice, working with your employer, if you have one, and discussing what is best for your own career development, because we shouldn't be dictating to you what to do. We will continue, obviously, to provide you with lots of different CPD opportunities, such as the webinars, the courses, the reading, etc. And we will be doing more in 2025. And we'll be really keen to hear, both in the survey and through ongoing feedback emails, the kind of things that you want us to provide more of, especially for short courses and shorter CPD. In terms of recording the CPD, there is no sort of formal way of doing it. The Privy Council doesn't dictate to us how we do it. It's up to us to do it. The main emphasis is on, what do you learn and how has it made a difference to your workplace, to your career? We can provide templates and exemplars. We can put you in touch with people. I'm really keen that we share best practice online as well, to give people ideas, that are inspirational and engaging. But ultimately, it'd be great for everyone to then upload your CPD onto the members only area that we're going to create called My CPD. So when you log into the website in the top right hand corner, and this will be about sort of showcasing what you do. And then if you're happy for us to sort of share any examples of best practice with other people, that would be great as well. And then we will be continually reviewing it, seeing what you do, what else we can do to support you in your education and professional development moving forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Kathryn. Now we're coming to the end of the kind of formal presentation. So if you've got any questions, just pop those in the chat and we will answer them. But before we get to that point, I just want to talk through the AGMs. Now, we need 2 AGMs and they're going to happen on the 10th of September. And so one of the AGMs is for the IBD and one of the AGMs is for the CIBD. And essentially, the purpose of those 2 meetings is for the members of the IBD to approve the passing over of everything about IBD to the CIBD. And then the purpose of the CIBD one is to accept all of those kind of assets and things that will come across from the IBD. So there are a number of things that we're going to need to go through. So one of the first things we'll do is we'll need to go through the final set of IBD articles of association, which will put us in a really good place to make that kind of formal legal transition. We'll do all of the normal stuff whereby we present the minutes for and the kind of financial statements for approval to the membership. We also have a number of trustees who've come to the end of their tenure, and they'll be stepping down, and you'll shortly receive the kind of details of the new trustees who have been approved to be put forward for election. We'll go through the membership subscription fees. There'll be a number of decisions that need to be ratified, but ultimately we'll be looking for the approval of the transfer of the IBD assets across to the CIBD. Now, secondly, and I think the timings that we will do the IBD AGM in the morning, and then we will have a short break, and then we will have the CIBD AGM. Now, again, we will need to elect the 3 new trustees, because although there will be a trustee of the IBD, they also need to be a trustee of the CIBD, so that when we've transitioned, they've been properly elected. And then the CIBD will have to accept the transfer of all the assets across from the IBD. Now, the eligibility of people who will vote in the CIBD AGM is anybody who was a member up to the point when the Royal Charter was sealed, and that was done on the 21st of December last year. So anybody who's joined after that isn't automatically a member of the CIBD. It all sounds very complex, and our kind of goal over our communication over the next few weeks is to make sure that all of this stuff is presented really clearly, and we're going to communicate this through the BDI and various other kind of direct communications. But this is simply the process of transferring from the IBD across to the CIBD. Happy to take any questions on that. Okay, so I'm now going to move on to questions. Okay, so first of all, we had a few sent through in advance, so I'm going to go through those, or a combination of myself and Scott and Kathryn will go through those. So the first one, when we become the CIBD, can I start using some of the new post-nominals? And yes, as soon as we kind of transition, you'll be able to use the new post-nominals. Now, we also had a question in about membership payments, so I'm going to pass that one across to Scott.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, absolutely. One of the key things for us is to be accessible for all. So it is something that we are actively looking at and planning for 2025. And what we will do is communicate what that looks like in the coming months or so. But absolutely, it is something we are very, very mindful of implementing for our members.
Okay, good. And then here's a really good question about, I'm a brewer struggling to make ends meet. How will Chartership affect me? Will the membership fees go up to cover this? Now, I think what's really important is a charitable priority for the IBD and the CIBD will be accessibility. And we recognise that that is really important to maintain that. The way that we set membership fees is that we look at the external factors and we look at our internal factors, because there's always going to be a balance between costs, IBD costs, and IBD income, but there will not automatically be an increase in subscription fees because we've become a chartered institute. If in time we do things that incur cost because they add benefit for the members, then we'll always need to take that into consideration. But there's certainly not going to be an automatic increase in subscription fees. And in terms of the mechanisms by which we set the subscription fees, so myself and a number of people at the IBD will consider all of those factors, and then we will make recommendations to a number of the subcommittees who have to approve those before they come forwards to you to vote at the AGMs, and those people are people who are working and living within the industry, and they are very much making sure that our pricing is competitive. But I go back to my very first point, which is, look, the strength of the IBD is in its network, and we need to make that network as accessible to everybody. So those are the kind of those are the kind of questions that we've had. Now we're getting a few that have come through into the chat. Now the first one is, hi, my name is Francis Wagisha from Rwanda. My question is, how do I create my IBD account? Well, that's really simple. If you just go onto the website, it will take you through that kind of process. You know, I've done it. So it must be a straightforward process. So hopefully you'll be fine on that. I've got one from Ken Duncan. Hang on a minute, I'm just trying to scroll through these questions. Hi Ken, thanks for this question. If one has 4 years experience in brewing and distilling at the change to the CIBD, how does one become a member? Well, I think the answer to that would be, in the first instance, our assumption is that everybody will meet the criteria. We've got no way of knowing how long people have worked in the industry. So we will assume that somebody would be a member. Now, if next year you're saying, look, actually, I've only done 4 years, or I've done 3 years, or I don't meet the criteria, then you can always become an associate member. And that's exactly why we brought in that associate member level. Now, I think you might say, actually, we're making things harder to be a member, but the whole point of being a chartered organisation is that we have a set of benchmarks and standards that we have to kind of operate to, that give us the benefits of being a chartered organisation. Now, I've got a question in from Keith Hayes. I understand you said the Privy Council will hold the CIBD to account. Who sits on the Privy Council in general terms? I think, Kathryn, I'm going to pass that one over to you.
Thank you so much. So the Privy Council is some sort of quasi-governmental department. There's usually the head of the Privy Council is a member of Parliament, and they're sort of trusted advisors, and they then consult with the different professions and the different government departments to get the latest updates. In terms of being sort of accountable to them, that's part of our getting the Royal Charter. So King Charles III ultimately signs it off. But they very much trust us to do things in the best possible way. And it's a sort of a quid pro quo. We tell them what we're doing and they approve it accordingly.
Now, so that's the answer. But I want to be really clear that chartership is not about kind of the historic traditions of the UK. The kind of whole purpose of chartership is to kind of create this fellowship of like-minded brewers and distillers and people who are working in those allied industries, to kind of have that universally recognized and globally recognized quality mark. And it also means that us at IBDHQ are going to have to really invest and think carefully about how we become that learning partner for life through things like building our CPD offer, even more engagement with the sections and what have you. So I certainly don't want people to think that chartership is a uniquely British thing. This is more about, look, there's a framework here that we can produce the IBD of the future that we're really excited about. So I don't want to get caught up with the Privy Council, because ultimately, you know, this is about being relevant to all of our members wherever they are. I've got a question here I've got one from Steve Wilkinson. Do retired fellows still exist as members, and do they need to undertake CPD? Well, retired fellows will still exist as members. Do they need to undertake CPD? They will be undertaking CPD. If they're going through the kind of basics of reading the BDI or what have you, if they're still actively engaging with all of the stuff that the IBD does, then we're very confident that they would qualify within that. I've got a question here from Anselm Ogbedi. Apologies if my eyesight's not great, if I'm getting the pronunciation of these. Hi, will sustainable financial health post-chartership be given a greater consideration? How can we consider investments as a way of sustainability? I think financial health, the CIBD, is really important. You know, the people on the team here are simply guardians of the IBD and to the CIBD, and you know, it's our responsibility to make sure that we've got a financially sustainable organisation, and that's a piece of work that Biram, who is the head of finance, is actively working on, being with oversight from the kind of treasurer and Will Calvert and the F&A committee. So absolutely, financial health of the organisation post-chartership is really important. And then, will there be a lower membership fee for members who are unemployed? So that's a really good question. I don't have an answer to that. We haven't considered it, but we will kind of note the question and we will give it consideration. So thank you for asking that kind of question. And
I just add to that one as well, that going back to the earlier question as well about maybe not struggling to make ends meet, we will always have CPD available for everyone, whether you
that's
are
a really good point.
Unemployed, or whether you're a student, or whatever your financial status is. You know, for example, we have the free BDI.
Yep.
We have a series of very low cost courses as well, which are available, the short courses. Volunteering, sort of meeting in sections as well, can also be free as well. So I'm confident there are multiple ways that we can help.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question from Sean. Hi, Sean. What membership category does a master brewer belong to? Well, they would be just the standard membership, unless they went through the kind of process of being elected as a fellow, and there are ways of doing that. I've got a question here. How many international members in NA? Now, I'm not sure what that would be.
North America.
North America. Okay. So I don't know what the number is off the top of my head. I know it's reasonable. Scott, to you?
Not at the top, but yeah, the way we capture our data at the moment is through section. So it's essentially international section membership numbers. So in terms of North America, that's the next level of data that we're looking to deep down into. What
we can say is that Scott has done a lot of work this year in terms of trying to revitalise the international section. And we've recently concluded a kind of election for all of those members. And we now have 6 new committee members, of which a number are based in North America. And we're now at a point where we're trying to kind of map out what the kind of plan is for that section, working with them. And also, Scott and I had the great pleasure of going to the craft beer convention in Las Vegas in April, and we made a lot of connections with equivalent kind of like-minded organizations. And we're very much, Kathryn is on her way to the World Brewing Congress in Minneapolis, and so we are absolutely committed to our international development. I think the key to that, though, will be to have strong sections. And so, you know, one of our kind of key kind of objectives this year was to revitalise the international section, of which NA sits within, and also to revitalise our Africa section. Here, will the new associate member grade be able to join and participate on local section committees? 100%. That's, you know, that's thank you for that question, Alan. You know, everyone's invited. You know, the point about the associate member is that's for people who've got an interest in brewing and distilling, and 100% they'll be. But yeah, I know you guys will always invite people with open arms. So I've got a question here about, I studied brewing science and technology. Is that, will the CIBD be globally recognised? Okay, well, will it give me an edge in my career, especially in regards to job opportunities? What is the difference between CIBD and fellowship? Are there any scholarships from less income countries and bright students? So I'll answer. So really good questions there. So on the first one, IBD has a number of scholarships that are available. We get great support from people like the Worshipful Company of Distillers. If you go on to the IBD website, you'll see the process for applying for those. And when does that launch?
That'll be the 1st of August. So yeah, head over to the website.
So it's a really timely question. In a couple of weeks, head over to the website. We've done a lot of work in terms of streamlining that process so that it's really easy for people to apply. And there is great support that is available from some great partners of us. What's the difference between CIBD and fellowship? Fellowship is a kind of category of membership. CIBD is just a kind of recognition for ourselves as an organization. Will it give me an edge in my career, especially with regards to job opportunities? 100%. That is absolutely the goal, that as well as benefiting the industry generally, it gives people an edge in terms of if somebody is a CIBD member, they will, as Kathryn talked about, be able to kind of quickly demonstrate the kind of range of the CPD that they've been involved in. And will the CIBD be globally recognised? Yes, absolutely. I think there are 1,300 chartered organisations, but you'll see them across the world, and they are recognised for this kind of general quality benchmark in terms of how important that is. Could you explain the route to fellowship in a nutshell? There are a number of criteria, and rather than me go through those criteria here, I think if you look at our bylaws, you'll see how people apply for fellowship. But essentially, it's operated through the sections, whereby you would go to a member of your section, or you would be approached by somebody within your section and you say, look, this person meets the criteria. You will be supported by the chair and another person, and then you go through, we have a kind of awards committee, and there are certain criteria the application would go through, and those are reviewed, and then all of the section chairs come together 4 times a year, and they approve all the kind of recommendations by that committee, the recommendations to the awards committee. Kathryn, do you want to go through the kind of...
Yeah, there's a next question here from someone who's remained anonymous, saying, please can you clarify the CPD for semi-retired members? I read the journal and other technical material around brewing technology, and I'm also involved with low alcohol breweries and initiatives. I find attending events more difficult with travel, but also cost plays a greater consideration. So yeah, absolutely. We're not prescribing how people participate in CPD. It's, if it's local, if it's free, if it's in, the comfort of your own home, it's about what's relevant for you and what's available in your sections, what you're participating in online. We have, for example, on our website already, a lot of uploads and information on events that have been held in other places, and we've shared the recordings. You can watch the Business of Spirits, for example, even if you couldn't attend in person on the day. We'll also be uploading more sort of useful events that have a sort of global appeal and that have already been organised by the sections. Equally, we're uploading more content in terms of reading materials, specific articles, new podcasts. So yeah, there should be something for everyone, wherever you are, whatever the price, however much you want to engage.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so that's our final question. Oh, we got one more. Okay. Steve. So, question from Steve: are there any changes to the bylaws for chartership apart from the changes in membership categories and CPD that you have outlined? So I think the answer to that is yes, but these documents are all readily available on the website. So and we're trying to make it easy to navigate so that you can see what the differences between the two are. The documents are all available, so by all means, take the chance to kind of read and review them. But the main changes are about the membership categories and the CPD that we have outlined. Also, we've been going through this process now for a number of years, and at each stage we've tried to share all of the relevant documentation. And as we've kind of proceeded with things, there've been lots of kind of checks with whether it's council or it's with board, because these are the two kind of main committees that are responsible for kind of making sure that we steward through to this kind of as seamless a transition as we can do. Now, that's the final question. I hope we've managed to answer them as fully as possible. If you've got any additional questions, then you can just simply contact us through the IBD website, and we will get back to you in short order. If you've got any suggestions, please also do so. And if you've enjoyed this webinar so much, I think we've got a couple more next Tuesday. So you can either kind of come back at what time of day, Ritu? Is it 8 o'clock UK?
No, it's 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock and 4 o'clock UK time. Inevitably here, we've got right into the nuts and bolts. We've tried to provide detail in an accessible way. But I think the exciting thing is once we've got Chartership done, will be the kind of what it means for us as an organisation in terms of both what it means for us as an organisation in itself, but also what it means for the individuals who are associated with the organisation. And I'd just like to thank you for all of your support. Thank you for attending today. The IBD is as strong as its membership, so thank you very much.